If I have to go back and analyze, I would probably say 50 or 60% of our clients come through RepHunter. I honestly don't think our company would be where it is today if we didn't have you guys.
Today's guest, Jerry Campanella, is a 31-year independent sales veteran and president of his own rep agency. He spent 21 years with RepHunter, helping companies grow through strong relationships and persistence. Let's hear how he built lasting success.
What is the best thing about RepHunter that makes that work for you?
Putting a lot of companies in front of us every week. So what I'll typically do is I'll try to zero in on what I think would be a really good fit for me and my company, because if it's not a fit, it's silly for me to do that.
And how are you using the AI?
I call my AI Ringo. I'll reach out to Ringo and say, okay, here's my situation. What do you think? How would you approach the situation? It's amazing what comes back in like 30 seconds.
They're trying to get AIs to be customer facing, which is like, hey, you don't need a sales rep. Just put the AI and do this. Yeah, I've tested it out a little bit to see, could you have an AI sales rep? And the answer is. This is an episode of the RepHunter podcast. Our focus, how to unleash your success as an independent sales rep. I am very excited to have as my guest on the show today, Jerry Campanella. Jerry is a longtime independent sales representative and member of RepHunter. We will be sharing Jerry's experience as a successful independent rep. Welcome to the show, Jerry.
Thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here.
So we're talking about your experience and some of the things that would be a benefit to those wanting to become an independent rep, or they're already a rep and they need to accelerate their sales. So one of the first things people want to know is what makes a great independent rep? What makes you a great rep?
I guess experience from my side. I started in sales as a young guy, actually working for my dad in the summer of my junior and senior year of college. Subsequently, I started interviewing after college with some major consumer products companies. And I did get hired initially by Bristol-Myers. Funny story, I had an interview in New York City, and I'm a 23-year-old kid, probably been to New York for maybe one other time. I'm walking around in Central Park, ready to go for the interview, and I run into Robert Redford, who was very kind. I introduced myself to him. It was a long time ago. He was a young guy. Ironically, he just passed away. But so in my start at Bristol-Myers, I was very excited about getting the job, and I had to compete with a lot of people for it. And I met the regional sales manager, who was a really cool, nice guy, Jack Folletti. I still remember his name. And I had a district manager. I lived in Rhode Island at the time, full-time. And I had a district manager who had all of New England and northern and southern New York City. But he only lived about a half hour from me. So he had, 14, 15, 16 salespeople. And he wanted to work with me like every other day, so we didn't have to travel. And he was brutal. And I said to myself, I guess I'm not, cut out to be in sales. So I've only worked maybe 6 or 8 weeks for them. And I turned in my resignation, and the bigger boss says, no, don't do that. Don't do that. We'll try to find you another division spot, whatever. But the guy was so bad. It was such a bad experience. And it really taught me a lot about how to be a boss and how not to be a boss. He was the worst. They ended up firing him about a year later. And 2 or 3 of the other guys that I actually went to Brank University with were working for Bristol-Myers, and everybody complained they got rid of him. So they got out of sales for about a year and jumped right back in. I did start working again with 2 very good larger companies. It gave me a lot of experience on how to deal in the sales world, mostly in consumer products. So I even started working those early days with people like CVS, Walgreens a little bit, that type of thing. Fast forward maybe 7, 8, 9 years, and I'm decided that because the change of locations, if you are successful with a big company, in those days you were moving like every 18 months and going to different parts of the country. And I did do very well early on, but the moving around that much just didn't appeal to me. So I ended up going to work for a smaller company, and I started out the national sales manager. I was 32 years old, and I ended up staying with them for about 9 years, and I worked in 3 different divisions going upward. So I had very good success in working with companies. And then I ended up going, this is really where the rep situation comes in. I ended up going to work as the president of a small company division of Stratton of London, based out of the UK. So terrific experience. I got to learn how to run a small business. We had 7 people when I started. We ended up with 35. And our goal was to sell the business. That was my job. Get it going, get it up, and sell the business. In doing that, I was working with some of the best sales reps, brokers in the United States. So when it was time for me to decide, do I want to stay corporate or not? The answer was no, because I already had contacts with these guys and they were great. So I started my company then and been at it for 31 years.
If I did the math right as you were speaking, it sounded like a 7-year and a 9-year. So that's going to be like 16 years and probably more that you were like inside sales.
I traveled all over. With 2 of the jobs, I traveled all over the country. So
So it wasn't all
was very
inside,
good. I was,
but it wasn't yet independent. It was
no, it
working
wasn't
for
independent.
companies.
And when I started my company, it was totally independent. But I had the luxury of being able to work with sales reps that I had worked with in the prior company with Stratton of London. So that's really been the majority of what I've done. But we're a little bit different. We do a lot of consulting, but we're national sales reps. So the people that we represent from RepHunter in our 21 years together, I always look for consumer products companies to work with. And that's basically it for me.
So 21 years with RepHunter is after the initial 16 plus years, or even more, because there had been a gap there. So
it's pretty good. I did all that and I'm only 49.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Was there a key factor or something that made you decide you wanted to go the independent route? Something that you transitioned?
Yeah, I want to be in control of my own destiny. I did the corporate thing for enough years and it was great training grounds for me and the people, everybody that other than that first guy that I worked with, they were all great and they were all good people. It was really nice. And the transition from the Stratton of London company was so easy because I'd already been working for 5 years with all these different reps. So it made starting my business a lot easier. And a lot of them carried over with me. I probably had 15 reps that came with me when I started my own company.
Would you say that's a critical or an important factor, that as you're building your experience as an employee, you're creating connections and relationships?
Exactly.
How does
exactly.
that? Yeah, unfold that a little bit.
And it's the same way when we bring on a new client from RepHunter. They'll hire us most of the time because of the connections that we have. And we're able to, make a call on, I know a lot of independent reps will be working in a smaller territory, but I'm sure it's their ability to connect with their customers that makes the difference.
Good. Okay, so working as an employee, and then you evolved working as an independent. You built your own company, your rep agency, and you're the boss. And how did you find RepHunter at that? I mean, you wouldn't have been with RepHunter in the beginning, but how did you?
No, I was not. In the beginning, I was utilizing ECRM, people at ECRM, and I used them for years, but not as much in later years. I actually, Jeff, don't know how we started. I don't know how I even got to look at it. All I know is that on Monday at about 11 o'clock Eastern time, I get your newsletter every week for the last 21 years. So
okay, too long to remember the decals, but
it's all good. I honestly don't think our company would be where it is today if we didn't have you guys.
That is such a powerful statement.
Well, it's true, because if I have to go back and analyze, I would probably say 50 or 60% of our clients come through RepHunter.
Wow. What is the best thing about RepHunter that makes that work for you?
Oh, you're putting a lot of companies in front of us every week. So what I'll typically do is I'll try to zero in on what I think would be a really good fit for me and my company. And those are the only ones I'll talk to. And I may only respond to 1 or 2 a month, because if it's not a fit, it's silly for me to do that. So, and that's worked pretty well over the years.
You have it's a multi-rep agency. You have a number of reps.
Yeah, we have about 7 people on our team. We've had more early years. A lot of the brokers that I used to use, they've either retired or they've got out of the business or whatever the case may be. So we do it more with our own people, our own reps. And we have some administrative people. We use virtual assistants in different places. I've had a girl in the Philippines, woman in the Philippines, working for me for 6 or 7 years. We've had people when we were based only out of Rhode Island. We had people with 10 years with us. So, and that's good too. Obviously, you want to have continuity. We got somebody now who's like a VP of our sales, who we've worked on and off for maybe 12 or 15 years.
Good relationships. You mentioned a virtual assistant in there. How do you use that? That's really coming on now. People are starting to warm up to that.
It's a big deal. And they work, there's agencies that have virtual assistants, and they basically work for $9, $10, $11 an hour. And these are, intelligent people, college educated out of the Philippines. And that's worked out really well. And if we have a really busy spurt, we'll put on a couple more.
What you would normally call sales support or admin functions and that type of thing. But you can
it's more reach out to for us reaching out to retail chains. And so they'll develop email cadence in approaching the companies. It's a lot more sophisticated today than it was even 10 or 15 years ago. And we're utilizing a little bit of AI too.
And how are you using the AI?
I really use it more in correspondence, especially if it's it's a kind of a tough situation in dealing with a client or whatever. And I'll go to AI, and I call my AI Ringo. So I'll reach out to Ringo and say, okay, here's my situation. What do you think? How would you approach the situation? What would an email be, or what would a thought process be? And it's amazing what comes back in like 30 seconds.
It's a productivity thing for you. It's helping you do something that might have taken an hour or 90 minutes, and it comes back in 30 seconds.
Maybe more. I'm not a good writer at all. So they've really helped me out. Sometimes I read and I say, my clients are not going to think I did this. So, but we'll see.
So it's not customer facing in that sense.
No.
Like they're trying to get AIs to be customer facing, which is like, hey, you don't need a sales rep. Just put the AI and do this, but we're really not.
I'm using it strictly for support.
Yeah, I've tested it out a little bit to see, could you have a AI sales rep? And the answer is not yet. Not yet. It's not really ready there. So, but it's more of an assistant, or internally at RepHunter, we use AI a lot, but it's more in the personal productivity, helping our team to do faster what would take a long time. In some of our earlier talk, you mentioned something that would be controversial, or something that is like reps don't do it right. They basically think it should be done one way, but they're wrong.
I'm not sure, Jeff, about that. What we do is different for sure, because it's like two sides of the ball for us. We do a lot of consulting with clients. Sometimes we have a RepHunter client that's a startup, or they're relatively new to the business. We've had companies through RepHunter where we've actually helped them run the business.
We call that getting rep ready, is one of the things they have to.
Right.
They're not really ready for a rep. You have to help them bridge that gap. You did mention persistence as one of the key attributes in a previous conversation.
I had a plaque that I took with me when I was working corporate, and it was in every office I had. There was a big sign about being persistent. And I think in life that really, that comes across in life itself, not just in sales.
So you think
not be a pain in the ass.
Not being a pain in the ass, but being more persistent than you would otherwise think you need to be. I'm thinking we're probably benefiting from your experience at this point, and just wondering if there would be any final thoughts or situations where something that would help a rep, like the idea of being a consultant to the client.
That's really worked for us, but I'm not sure how many people in RepHunter actually do that. But if you have an area or a category or merchandise or whatever. You can certainly add in the consulting piece and be paid for that in a different way, either as bonuses or a retainer or something along those lines. And I find, with newer people early on, we do that a lot. And then we switch off to straight commission, and we'll reduce the commission when we have the retainer. So they're really paying the same amount of money they would pay. It's helpful, especially when you have multiple people working for you, to have cash flow to help that thing move forward.
Right. Well, that's great. I really want to thank you for sharing your experience with us today. And
well, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Very good. And have a great rest of your week. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Sounds great, Jeff. Thanks.